Good morning. Would you please all rise and join me in the Pledge of Allegiance to our flag, which is here to the right on the podium. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Thank you. You may be seated.
I'd like to welcome everyone and ask for your undivided attention. I'm going to guess that everyone here today has made the decision to be distracted and drive. This decision not only affects the people in your car, but the other motorists and your friends and family. 1 out of every 10 people aged 15 to 19 are involved in a distracted driving accident. There's approximately 1,200 people in this room. That means 120 of you could be directly involved in a distracted driving accident. As you look around and wonder if you'll be one of that 120, I can tell you that everyone sitting and standing in front of you will be influenced by your decision. Captain Jeff Payton will now introduce all the very important individuals and pay respect to the vital positions they hold for our community.
Please hold your applause until the end. Introducing first, Honorable Judge David A. Elwood of the Guernsey County Common Pleas Court. Honorable Judge David B. Bennett of the Guernsey County Probate and Juvenile Court. Tom Stickrath, Superintendent, BCI&I. Daniel Padden, Guernsey County Prosecutor. Dr. Sandy M. Schubert, Guernsey County Coroner. Dr. Lee, Licking County Coroner. William Ferguson, Cambridge Law Director.
Good morning.
Tom Perkins, Mideast Career and Technology Superintendent. Ryan Caldwell, Rolling Hills Local Superintendent. Dennis Detra, Cambridge City Schools Superintendent. Dr. Richard Hall, East Guernsey Superintendent. Sheriff Michael McCulley, Guernsey County Sheriff's Office. Chief Randy LePage, Cambridge Police Department. Chief Jason May, Byesville Police Department. Dave Wilson, Guernsey County Commissioner. Skip Gardner, Guernsey County Commissioner. Dave Saft, Guernsey County Commissioner. Tom Orr, Cambridge Mayor. Jeff Deeks, Cambridge Fire Department Chief. Jim Starr, Director, United Ambulance Service. Brian Hill, State Representative, District 97. Please give them applause, please.
Welcome to Maria's message. Many of you, as Deputy Kern said, will be impacted by your results when you're behind the steering wheel. Message today is that your lives matter. The impact that you have will carry a long, long time, maybe permanently, as you will hear today. 7 years ago, I was struck in my work car by a distracted driver. Young lady, Cambridge High School student, hit me at 45 miles an hour, and I have lived with permanent damage to my vertebrae for 7 years. But I walked away. The message that you hear today is far more reaching. So please give Dom and Maria's message your time and your consideration. Thank you.
Good morning, everyone. I'd like to welcome Mr. Tiberi here and welcome him to Cambridge to speak to us here today. What an awesome gathering we have here today. Thank you, Deputy Kearns, for arranging this for us, and let's give him a round of applause. When you look out in the audience here, I will tell you from the stage, it's really, really awesome. And it's very easy to see that each and every single one of you has a very bright future in front of you. Some of you soon will be maybe going off to school to further your education. Some may be going to serve our country by joining the military. Some of you may be entering the workforce. Some of you are going to continue on in high school. Whatever path you choose, I can tell you this, that everybody on this stage and everybody that was introduced and all the folks here have very high hopes for you in your life. And quite frankly, that's why we're here today. We're here today because of you. So let me ask a question. How many of you students, how many have a license right now, a driver's license? Raise your hand. All right. How many of you that don't have a license hope to have a license sometime in the near future? So we pretty much have almost everybody in the room. Driving a motor vehicle is a great privilege, and it's a great responsibility. The decisions that you make when you get behind that wheel not only affect you, but many, many others. And not just your passengers. It affects your friends, your family, your parents, grandparents, everybody else on the road, the persons who you may come in contact with, their family, their friends. Part of my job as the prosecuting attorney is to meet with victims of crimes and their families if the victims have died. We've had a number of cases lately that have resulted from this distracted driving. Not just texting, but talking on the phone, talking to others in the car, eating, whatever it might be. Not paying attention to what you're doing. You need to understand that your life and the life of the victim, their families and friends, literally can change in an instant. This is something that you can control, and if it's really, really that important, find a place to pull over and take care of it. But while you're driving, pay attention to driving. I've asked Dr. Jeff Lee, he's the Chief Forensic Pathologist for Licking County, to come here today to speak to you. Dr. Lee is charged with doing all of the autopsies for victims of crime when they pass away, for that happen here in Guernsey County and also from many other counties. And I can tell you this, we're tired of having those meetings with the victims' families and explaining to them what happened and how it could have been avoided. You have the ability to prevent this from happening. Please listen to the messages that you're going to receive here today, and please follow it. Thank you.
First, I'd like to thank Mr. Patton, all the law enforcement here, Mr. Tiberi, for asking me to come here and talk about this important subject, distracted driving. Now, as Mr. Patton said, I'm the forensic pathologist and deputy coroner in Licking County, which is in Newark. I do autopsies and work for all types of the counties in southeast central Ohio, including Guernsey, Muskingum, Licking, several others. I've done thousands of autopsies over my 15, 16 years of being here, and hundreds of those include crash deaths. And part of my job is to go out to the scene with the law enforcement to look at the scene from a medical point of view, help to determine what happened in that crash. And then back at the autopsy table, examine the deceased person, same thing with a medical point of view to determine exactly what happened. This is for both the family, for me, for legal reasons, and especially if some of these things are going to go to trial and possibly to jail if you are the one that is the cause of the crash. As I've investigated these cases over the years, the ones that are the most traumatic, especially for the family members left from the deceased, and we're talking about young drivers here, so it would be your parents. The incident is so sudden, something you can't plan for, and it hits the parents so hard. They are the ones that everyone, when you were at home this morning, when they were at home this morning, I'm sure you thought the next time you were going to see them was the next time you were at home. But if you're distracted driving or anything causing a crash and you die and you're gone, they're not going to see you anymore. And as Mr. Patton said, distracted driving, we think of it now with the electronic telephones, texting, calls back and forth, that I've done crashes caused by people who are eating, shaving, putting on makeup, talking to the people in the back seat, all kinds of different things where they're not focusing on the road, focusing on what they need to be focusing on, just getting from one place to another. If your phone goes off, you get a text, whatever, just put it aside. I'm on call 24 hours a day, every weekend, or some weekends and some days through the week, and when I'm on call and driving, set it aside. I don't answer anything while I'm driving. Find an exit on the highway, pull over, go to a parking lot, something. These things can wait a few seconds or a couple of minutes. It's no big deal. But I want you, when you're thinking, when you're driving out there, I want you to think what your parents are going to feel like if sometime I have to talk to them and say, well, your son or daughter's never coming home again. What are they going to feel like the next time you miss someone's birthday? What are they going to feel like when you miss Mother's Day or Christmas? So please, pay attention to the road. Some of these cars nowadays, you think they are almost on autopilot because some of them will brake before you brake if there's an impediment in the way. They'll put off lights and buzzers because there's someone in your blind spot. That's to help you. It's not to eliminate some of your attention. You still need to pay full attention when you're driving. That is your main reason. You're driving something that's sometimes several thousand pounds, and when you're not paying attention, there's an awful lot of momentum going behind that, and as you know, you can endanger anyone else that's on the road, not just you and your passengers. So please think about that every time you're driving, and think about your parents. Thank you.
She loved life, and she lived it to the fullest.
She just had this light whenever you would talk to her. She brought so much light to everybody.
She was bigger in life. She was 5 foot nothing, 110 pounds, but she was like this dynamo. And when she come into the room, she would light it up.
This was the nicest person I've ever met in my life. Better person than I ever could be.
September 17th is a day that I will never forget. I hate that day. And it's a day that I lost my little girl.
I said, I love you, Maria. And I love you more, Mom. And she slammed the door, and that's the last time I talked to her.
2:05 in the morning, the dog started barking, and I heard a cardboard. And I said, thank God she's home.
The door, and Tom went to answer it.
And I looked out the window, and I saw 7 policemen standing there, and one of them said chaplain. And as a dad, you know, you just know this isn't good.
That's a parent's worst nightmare.
He said, I don't know how to tell you this, but she was in a horrible accident tonight, and she didn't make it.
There's been a tragedy impacting our Tiberi family this morning, and we're sad to report that Dom Tiberi's 21-year-old daughter, Maria, died last night in a car accident along I-270.
It's been several months now, and To me, it's like 5 minutes ago. It seems like it just happened. I have a hard time not thinking about that night. It is a parent's worst nightmare, and that's the reason that we have done what we've done. Distracted driving, yeah, it's texting, it's playing on the phone. I mean, it's eating, it's putting makeup on, and we may never know what happened to her. Clearly something happened for her to hit a semi-truck at 53 miles an hour. We can either give up, stay in self-pity, or we can pick ourselves up and try to do something about this. I never wanted Maria to be a statistic. I want people to know that if it can happen to me and my family, it can certainly happen to your family. It is the #1 killer of the age group 8 to 24. I want to save lives. We want to save lives. We don't want to have any more tragedies.
It only takes a second to be distracted, and it can happen to anybody. Anybody. You look away, it can happen.
When I'm dispatched to the crash, it's a hot summer evening. It's near the end of my shift. And when the dispatcher comes on the radio, she gives me a location that there's not supposed to be any crashes there. There's no bad curves. There's no obstacles. There's nothing in the road. There should not be a crash there. And I can tell, just based on her voice, that it's a bad crash. So I respond. 2 of my other troopers respond as well. And when we get to that part of the county where we're not used to responding to, we're not used to handling crashes in, I immediately know that this is a serious crash. I notify the dispatcher that I'm there. I get out of my car and I start to take a look at the crash scene. It's a very, very slight curve to the left. And here's the car, off to my right, smashed into a tree. It's not a sharp curve. How did that car end up there? And as I get closer and closer to the crashed vehicle, I already know what had happened. For some reason, this car has missed this turn, missed this slight curve, drifted off the right side of the road and struck this tree. Happens too many times. But when I walk around to the far side of the vehicle and I get to the far side of the crash scene, I know just how serious it is. And my thoughts immediately turn from investigating the crash to notifying the family of the 17-year-old that's in the car. The emergency personnel are no longer rushing around. Their work is pretty much done, and they're waiting for the coroner to show up. It's a very, very serious, very tragic scene. After running the license plate, it only gets worse. We're only a mile from where this young man lives. He was coming from work, which was only 3 miles from where he lived. So I leave one of my troopers with one of the deputies there to continue the crash investigation, which is unfortunately very clear-cut. And I take my trooper and we drive a long mile to a small residence to do the notification. The only part of my job that I don't like. Most of the notifications happen the exact same way, and you heard from the very powerful video you just watched that normally before you ever make it up to the house, the parents have seen you coming. And that was the case this time as well. When my door shut and I started to walk across the lawn, stepfather came out. He took one look at me, lit up a cigarette, and sat down in a lawn chair. And before I could have a chance to even explain anything to him, Mom came out of the house. They'd been waiting for their son to come home, and he didn't make it. He was distracted. So I have to explain to them the how the crash happened. For some reason, your son was distracted. Radio, cell phone, something on the side of the road that he was looking at, and he missed that turn and struck a tree and lost his life. What we don't ever get to answer to those families is the why. That's why we're all here today.
Next, you hear from a man who knows only too well how costly distracted driving is. A man who has suffered an unspeakable tragedy and is using that tragedy to educate and to inspire others. Hopefully that education and inspiration will help save lives. You've seen him on 10 TV for years, giving us the latest on the Buckeyes, the Blue Jackets, the Clippers, and the Crew. You've heard him report your own high school sports scores. Today he has something more serious and more personal to report. Ladies and gentlemen, Dom Tiberi.
Thank you very much. It is truly an honor to be here. This is absolutely amazing that I'm almost speechless. I want to really thank Deputy Kearns for having me here. I want to thank all the dignitaries that are here. I want to thank all the police officers and first responders that are here. You know, nobody wants a police officer till there's one not around. I can't imagine the hell that these guys live, the first responders, the police officers. Can you imagine what it's like to come up on a scene, find a kid in the car, have to cut them out, and then go wake up mom and dad, tell them their son or daughter's not coming home. And these guys have to do it all the time, and it's heartbreaking. I want to recognize a family that's here that's in a club that no parent ever wants to join, the Pickenpaw family. Rita and Earl, would you please stand? Along with their daughter Kim Warner and Ed Pickenpaw and the whole family. They lost their daughter Joni Bice in a distracted driving crash 2 years ago. God bless you. I'm praying for you. And we're not built for this. This is not. I'm going to tell you kids right now, I'm an advocate for moms and dads. I'm an advocate for moms and dads. And believe it or not, we were once 16 years old. I know it's hard to believe, but we were. How many drive right now? And most of you are going to be getting your license. All right, let me just tell you, what you've done in the past, you can't change. It's the past. And I'm here to tell you that the future is not promised. God, I know that's the truth. So all we can control is the here and now. So with that in mind, how many of you have texted when you've driven? No one's watching. No one's going to hold it against you. How many of you have eaten while you've driven? How many of you girls out there have put makeup on when you've driven? And I've done it. I have to wear it being on TV. How many of you had a bunch of kids in the car when you were driving? All of that, guys, is distracted driving. Distracted driving is three things. It's anything that takes your hands off the wheel, your eyes off the road or your mind off your driving. And it's just that simple. Somewhere along the line, automobiles, which is a machine, a car is a machine, and its basic thing is to get you from point A to point B. Somewhere along the line, it became something else. Place to do business, place to talk on the phone, place to have a party with our friends. A car is nothing more than transportation to get you from point A to point B. And nobody ever thinks it's going to happen to them. I used to be that way. It's always going to be the other guy. But I'm here to tell you, I am the other guy. And it does happen. And it happens too much. We have an epidemic in this country, and it's called distracted driving. In the United States, heart disease is the #1 killer, cancer's #2, and car crashes is #3. But amongst your age group, ages 8 to 24, it is the #1 killer. If one of you kids is going to die, it's probably going to be in a car crash. And it happens too much. Every 5 minutes in Ohio, there's an injury accident. Someone gets hurt every 5 minutes in a car crash. Every 7.8 hours, someone dies in Ohio. Nationally, it adds up to 33,000 people a year, and the majority of them is your age group. How many of you know or have been in an accident? How many have been in a serious accident, had to go to the hospital? Look around, guys. Look at how many there are. How many of you know someone that was killed in a car crash? Look at the hands, look behind you, how many? Heart disease, cancer, and car crashes, what's the most preventable? You know, high school is so important and prom's coming up, and I had so much fun when I was in high school, and I want you guys to have fun. And your friends are so important. Right now, your friends are probably the most important thing in your lives. You guys hang out at school. You hang out when you're not in school. And when you're not together, you're texting each other. You're sending Snapchats, Instagrams, Twitters, Facebook, the whole deal. I understand. My kids did the same thing. But as you sit here and you think about how important your friend is, and we all have a best friend or best couple friends, look at your friend, because you're probably sitting with them right now, and think about how important they are in your life and how much time you do spend together, talking, texting, sharing secrets. And as you look at that person, I want you to imagine they're dead, that they're lying in a casket. That's the reality here, kids. I don't have to imagine anymore. The Pick and Paul family doesn't have to imagine anymore. There is nothing cool about death. Nothing cool about it at all. It takes everything you have, everything you're ever going to have, and it robs moms and dads and grandma and grandpas of their dreams. You know, I watched this video, and it's really hard for me because I see those pictures of when Maria was a little baby. It's no different than your parents. They've got pictures of you when you were little babies. And we all have dreams for our kids. I wanted to see Maria graduate next month. She was due to graduate on May 10th. It's not going to happen. I wanted to see her get married, have babies, make me a grandpa. It's not going to happen. That's the reality of death. Nothing cool about it. So as you look at your friends and you giggle and you think it's funny, imagine that they aren't with you anymore, how your life would change, how sick you would feel. That's what we feel. So life interrupted. She's gone. All Maria now is a memory. You know, September 17th, she had worked all day. She came home, And it was about 9:30, and she told her mom she was going to the library to study. And I said, come on, Maria, you're not going to the library at 10:30 at night. Just stay home. You don't need to go out tonight. And Maria was 21 years old. She had just moved back home. She had lived away at college. And she decided to move back home. And she reminded me that she was 21 and that when I told her she could come home, I said there would be no restrictions. And so, reluctantly, I said, you're right. I said, don't be late, I'll wait up for you. And she said to her mama, mom said, we love you, Maria. And she said, I love you more, and she left. And like I said in the video, at 2:25 in the morning, I was sitting in what I call my worry chair. Every parent has a worry chair. When your kids are away and out of the house, we worry. That's what we do. And I sat and I waited and I waited, and at 2:25 I heard the dogs bark and a car door shut. My heart fluttered and I said, thank God she's home. Well, I went to the door when it rang, the doorbell rang 5 times, and I'm thinking, what in the world is Maria doing? She must have forgot her keys. She knows her mom has to go to work at 4 in the morning. And I walked down the hall and I looked out, and I saw 7 policemen standing there. And like I said, one of them said chaplain. And there are things that I have seen that will never leave my mind. And opening that door and hearing the police chief from Dublin say, did Maria drive a red car? I said, yes, sir. And he said, I don't know how to tell you this. She was in a horrible crash and she didn't make it. It doesn't seem real to me. It still seems like I'm in this dream and I want to wake up from this nightmare. I'm here to tell you guys that I've always considered myself a tough guy. There was nothing worse than I went down to the hospital with my father to identify my little girl. And she's laying on a gurney, and I couldn't bring her home. I see you little girls out there, and I see Maria and all of you, and that's what's hard. But I'm telling you, we as parents, we are here to be safety nets. We want to give our kids a second chance. And I couldn't give her a second chance. I couldn't be a safety net. There's no do-overs from death. And that's the reality of this, guys. I'm here because I couldn't bring her home. I've always told my girls that Daddy's always going to be there. And I know that your daddies tell you guys the same thing, because your daddy's little girls. And as dads, we want to protect our kids. I couldn't protect her. She wasn't 3 miles from our house. She left at 10:38. The wreck was at 10:43. That quick, and it was over. I know this is a heavy subject, and I would much rather be talking to you guys about Buckeye football, but that's my job, and this is my mission now. We are losing too many of you, and it's nuts. You know, I said earlier, those laws are on the books to protect you guys. There's a reason why the state of Ohio doesn't want a car full of kids, because bad things happen. I don't know if it got over here, but in the early part of the summer, last summer, 5 kids in a car in Johnstown, Ohio, ages 15 to 17. School's out, they're getting ready to enjoy the summer, driving down the road, don't have a care in the world. And the boy driving had his license for 2 months. Not supposed to have that many kids in a car. I'm sure they were having a good time, hooting it up. He's going too fast, lost control, hit a tree. The car hit with such impact it broke in half. 3 kids, 2 girls and a boy in the back seat, killed instantly. That quick. I promise you, that boy driving, he didn't want to kill his friends. He didn't mean for it to happen. Yet now he's in jail. And when he's 21, he'll get out. But can you imagine that boy, what's going through his mind? Look at your friends, guys, how important they are to you. Can you imagine if you would have been the kid driving and you killed your friends? That's the reality of this. Good kids make bad decisions. And I can look at you kids, and I see that we got a bunch of smart kids here. Make the right decision. Be a leader. You guys know you shouldn't drink and drive. That's distracted driving. Prom's coming up. Have a good time at prom, but don't drink and drive. I had to take this selfie. Is taking a selfie worth risking your life? Sending a text, is it worth risking your life? Or God forbid you kill someone else? It's like I said, nobody ever thinks it's going to happen to them. But it's happening too much. You know, we don't want you kids to be distracted drivers, but we do want you to be defensive drivers. Defensive driving is you got to expect the unexpected. Expect that the guy next to you or everyone around you is distracted. You got to know how to get yourself out of trouble. And when we see these horrific wrecks on the freeways, a lot of times it's when two people aren't paying attention. And, you know, you don't see, in Columbus, we don't see too many horrible wrecks inside 270. Statistically, the wrecks happen on the kind of roads you guys drive on every day. Rural highways, the freeways. Maria was on 270 heading towards Hilliard. That's considered a rural road. And so you guys drive every day, 2-lane highways, 45 miles an hour, sometimes even faster. There's no room for error there, guys. You better be a defensive driver. Because, as I said in the beginning, I'm an advocate for moms and dads. When I put on my Facebook and Twitter that I was coming here, I heard from so many of your parents that said, I'm so glad my son or my daughter's going to hear your message. And what I really want you guys to do is go home tonight, go up to your folks, your parents, give them a big hug, tell them you love them, and tell them you're going to be better behind the wheel. God knows that I would love to be able to hug Maria again. I would do anything. So please do that for me. Tell them you're going to be better. Be leaders. Take care of each other. Let's end this madness. You guys were handed pledge cards. And prior to this, we've been to 39 high schools, and today there's 4 here. So doing my math, that means you guys together make my 43rd high school. We've asked everyone to take the pledge. And we've had over 23,000 kids take the pledge. Not all of them take it. And I don't want you to take it if you're just giving me lip service. I want you to take it if you seriously are going to change your habits, if you seriously are going to say enough is enough, if you're seriously going to be a leader. Don't be afraid to step up. If you see kids drinking, don't let them. I mean, how could you live with yourself if something bad happens? Prom's coming. If you're in a car and someone's texting, tell them to stop it. And if they won't, get out of the car. Just drive the car. Just get from point A to point B. What I ask, though, is that you take this pledge, you sign the card, We're not going to do anything with the information. We're just keeping track. Sign it, and when you leave, you'll see baskets, purple baskets. Please drop those cards signed in there. But what I would ask is that you take this pledge with me and repeat after me. I pledge to keep my hands on the wheel, keep my eyes on the road, keep my mind on my driving. If I keep my hands, eyes, and mind where they should be, I can keep Maria's message, I can keep myself safe and keep Maria's message alive. You know, I know this is a heavy deal and it's a hard thing to hear, and I promise you it's a hard thing for me to do. Because, like I said, it seems like it's been 30 seconds ago that they were knocking on our door. I do not want your parents to have to go through this nightmare. And as parents, we all can do a better job because our kids are watching. Just because we've been driving for 30 or 40 or 20 years doesn't mean we should not be better drivers. We all need to be better. If you guys see your mom and dad doing it, tell them to stop it, because it's just not worth it. You know, in closing, I always tell people Maria's message is a message of love, and it truly is. I know that your moms and dads and grandparents and your family loves you. They love you, they love you, they love you. I promise you, these elected officials, these city leaders, these police officers, these firemen, they love you or they wouldn't be here. And I'm telling you that I'm here because I love you. We just ask that you guys love yourselves enough to keep yourself safe and keep Maria's message alive. God bless you. Have a great prom. Be safe. And thank you for allowing me to come here today.
I'm going to ask for help from all the staff members and principals. There's tables outside with little gift bags for everyone to receive when they leave. I'm going to dismiss this wing, so if the teachers and administrators can help, this wing go, and then we'll do the middle, and then we'll do the far wing. Thank you.